Hey guys, and welcome back to Round 4 of the Connecticut Regional. Today we have Keith on the left playing the Lannister Kraken, and Tim on the right playing Greyjoy Fealty. Should be a pretty quick game based on the file size so far, only 15 minutes. The only question is who comes out on top. I don't want to spoil it because I know the results, so let's just watch and see what happens. One thing I did want to talk about, however, while we're waiting for these guys to put down their setups, it's a comment that I get fairly regularly when doing commentary. The people who... So right away, let me interrupt myself there. The Greyjoy player tried to set up a negative attachment. You cannot do that. You're not allowed to set up an attachment and assume that your opponent will have a character. And that's actually the exact reason why you're not allowed to set it up, is because if there's no valid targets, you're going to have to discard it. So part of playing an attachment is choosing the target, and if you're not sure there's a valid target, you're not allowed to play the card. So it looks like a Burnman and a Jaime versus a Drowned God and a Theon. Not a very good start for Keith. But back to my point, when I commentate on people's matches, inevitably I will always get an email or a comment the next day saying, especially when I point out a mistake, saying, oh, well, that wasn't a mistake because I had this in my hand and yada, yada, yada. And most of the time, they're actually correct. However, what I have to say to that is, I don't know that you have that in your hand. So, in effect, there's essentially two different sets of games going on when I'm doing a commentary. So, while yes, the player may not have made a mistake in his mind, because he has the information of the cards in his hand, the way that I'm analyzing the game, I'm analyzing it based on the information that I have, so the cards on the table. So in that sense, the match that the viewers are watching and the match that the players are playing are, for all intents and purposes, two different board states, because we have much more hidden information than the players have. So even though I identify something as a mistake during the game, based on our perspective, ours being myself and you, the listeners, it may not actually be a mistake based upon the two players because they know what cards that they have in their hand. So I just wanted to point that out to the players. Don't feel bad if I say something is a mistake. It may not be a mistake from your perspective, but I'm just saying it's a mistake based on the information that I have. So we see here Keith open with Calm to try to keep board position against a military-heavy Greyjoy deck. The Greyjoy player opened with Marched, which was very interesting. He opted to trade a Priest of the Drowned God for a Burned Men. He must have something really good in his hand and thinks that he wants to put the pressure on Keith. Maybe he's got the Sea Stone or something that he knows he can get a direct kill, and he wants to make sure he can stealth past targets. So maybe he liked that trade. A little surprising there. He also could have just wanted to go first really badly. The 8 initiative on Marched is very good.
Good one, fam. Good one, fam. Your challenge.
I'm not really sure what the delay here is. Looks like he popped a King's Road, and he's spending some money. Alright, so there you go. So I can assume that's why he marched. He wanted to get as many red icons of Keith's off the board as possible so that he could guarantee that unopposed. He can stealth past Jaime with Theon, attacking with Balon as well. And assuming Keith doesn't have any tricks, he's going to be able to murder somebody. Assuming he has the Sea Stone, which he doesn't. Well, that's interesting. But then the open marched is a little intriguing. Reducer. It's like his own Theon. So Keith set up pretty good to eat a claim with the Chud. See if he's got any events in his hand to back up his board. But pretty barren board for both players. Notice the Sheriff of Nottingham playmat is gone. Than complained. that the Sheriff of Nottingham mat wasn't thematic enough, so I went and used my store credit. This shop gave you $20 in store credit when you entered the tournament for $20, so I used that to buy that Greyjoy mat on the right and put that down instead of the Sheriff mat. But I did want to talk a little bit in this game about something that happened in the last game that I don't think I explained very well, and I wanted to explain it again a little bit more here. So I'm going to ignore the action for a little bit and just talk to you guys. There was a play in the last game where Joe dropped first snow against Chris when Chris only had Danny out. And a lot of people didn't really understand why I was so up on that play and why I liked it so much, because he didn't have any guaranteed targets of his opponents. Meanwhile, the person who threw the first snow actually did have targets that it was going to hit. And I wanted to make sure that the newer players understood that even if you don't have any targets that your first snow is going to hit on your opponent's side of the board, that doesn't mean it's a bad thing to throw it, because what you're doing is preventing them from playing any characters that are 3 costs or less. So even if they don't have any in their hand to play, which you obviously don't know, you now have rock-solid information to use during your own marshalling phase. You know that he's not going to be able to play any characters for the most part, maybe 1 at 4 cost or above. So at worst, Joe knew in that spot he was only going to have to be facing 2 characters in the challenges phase. And meanwhile, he was going to be able to ambush his cards back in. Okay, so Balin gets tears there. So now we know why this game is so short. It's going to be over really quickly. Once Greyjoy Fealty falls behind, we know it cannot come back for the most part. Especially as a deck as strong as this one. But back to my first snow point. In this game, very often, it's not necessarily the effect that your card ultimately has. It is the psychological impact that it has. So, for example, a lot of people complained about the Boneway when it came out, about, oh, you're not going to be able to trigger it, you're not going to be able to trigger it, now, if you draw it late game, it's not going to matter. But a lot of times, just having a card on the board, whether you trigger it or not, is secondary to the psychological aspect that it has on your opponent.
And that's Kingdom or Edict, right?
In the example of the Boneway, your opponent, whether you ever trigger it or not, your opponent knows it's there, and he has to alter his play based on that card just being on the table. So if you're afraid you're not going to trigger a card, and that's why you don't want to put it in your deck, you can't think of it like that. You have to think of the impact that it's going to change the way the outcome of the game, just by its mere existence on the playboard. And honestly, First Snow is one of those cards that affects every game that is played, whether or not it's in either player's plot deck, because everybody has to build around that plot now. Moving on, Keith dropped Marched, which got naval superiority, so he's not going to have any income, so we're going to continue to have a barren board state. A very obvious play by Keith to get rid of Tim's Theon, and he's in complete control. No reason for him not to trade his character for that. Pretty standard play. Very safe, but very effective. Can't fault him. So this might be the game with the fewest amount of cards on the table we see all tournament.
Do you mind putting some on or something? You're good. Thank you. It's unopposed. Clan and clan. Okay.
Once again, we hear Chris Lavin in the background. Hello, Chris.
Fishing net. Okay.
Fishing net on Jamie. Big fan. Anytime you can reduce the effectiveness of your opponent's cards while simultaneously increasing the effectiveness of yours, meaning Jamie can now not block, so Tim's characters are more effective, that's always good. Any incremental increase, I mean, even if you're standing with a lone shipwright, my goodness. What a fun little game we have here. Minimalist Thrones. It's almost like a Bloodthirst game.
Okay.
Fishing net does not stop Jamie from attacking, so this game is going to continue to get worse for Tim, unfortunately. Interestingly, these players are both 3-0, so Clearly, the Greyjoy Fealty deck is not a bad deck, and Tim is not a bad player. But this is sort of what I've been talking about over and over again. I'm sure you guys are sick of hearing me say it, that when Greyjoy Fealty flames out, it really flames out. I mean, Keith does not even have a board. He has no resources. He has 2 characters, and he's completely dominating the match. It's actually pretty funny.
Okay, pass the Dom, tied. I hit reserve.
And not only that, he's going to have to discard cards, and he's still with the commanding lead. Sorry the Greyjoy playmat couldn't help you, buddy. Oh man, that's so silly. I've actually never seen a Thrones game with so few cards in play. It's kind of fun.
With who, Jamie? Yep. I will oppose.
Heads on Spikes versus Summons? Okay. I mean, for all intents and purposes, this match is over.
Good move.
So we can just talk about some upcoming stuff while the action plays out. So we have the Maryland Regional this weekend. I've decided that I'm not going to attend that one because I was out of town last weekend for the Connecticut Regional, and I really don't want to be away from my daughter for 2 weekends in a row, so I apologize for that. I am not going to be covering the Maryland Regional. After that, the next tournament for AMC will be the Dance with Dragons, again in New York. I really encourage everybody to go to that tournament. New York always throws the best tournaments, in my opinion, because the location of downtown Manhattan, the shop, the Complete Strategist, you really can't beat it. The staff is super nice. New York City Meta is always accommodating. The prize support that they put in is really second to none. I defy any meta in the entire country, or world for that matter, even Europe and Asia, to come up with the prizes that these guys come up with. Spending upwards of $500 to $600 out of their own pocket for each tournament in prize support. This time giving away, I believe, coin pouches, custom made. I forget the woman that makes it. It's John's wife, I believe. Maybe, I don't want to guess her name, but you guys can look on Card Game DB for it. Top of house, I believe each is getting a custom house-made coin pouch, and the winner is getting the dragon box with 3 dragon's eggs in it. Badass. Oh, and second place is taking a little custom-made dragon box that I'm bringing as well. So after that, I don't really have too many tournaments on my schedule aside from game night kits until Gen Con. Boston said they might be organizing something in the middle of summer, which I'll go to if they have anything. But other than that, tournament season is pretty much over for me. So on the bright side, that will give me time to actually focus on original content and not just commentaries and jousting contests. So this huge backlog of ideas that I have for Sirius trainings and other episodes of Hear Me Roar. I still have rules episodes ideas for the Citadel series that I haven't even started yet. I just really haven't had time with the sheer amount of tournaments that I've been doing in commentaries, so it'll be nice to have a lull in tournaments. Finally get out all those episodes I've been promising you guys for so long. But we do have, let's see, this is round 4, so we have 5, 6, and then so we have 5 more matches after today of this tournament, all with commentary as always. And then we have the drawing for my playmat on Sunday. I'm still working out the kinks on the stream, but worst case scenario, I'll either film the drawing and post it on Sunday, or we can do it live with no audio if I can't figure out my audio issues. But I have all night tomorrow and Saturday morning to try to figure out the stream issues, so that shouldn't be too bad. Meanwhile, Keith continues to steamroll here. The Greyjoy player must be having just horrible, horrible luck. Not able to field anything, any sort of defense. Not much of a game. Probably the easiest top table round 4 match in the history of Thrones tournaments. Just by nature of variance, really. I don't think the Greyjoy player did anything wrong, and sometimes your deck just craps out. It happens to everybody.
Got him anyway. My challenges? Yep. Okay.
Blah, blah, blah.
Intrigue,
Ran out of things to say. That's never happened before.
Okay.
there's so little action. There's just really nothing to talk about.
Claim.
Wolves of the North came out. That's so I can tell you guys about that. I'm still planning on finishing my review of No Middle Ground. I've just been so busy doing the commentaries here. I actually have all the rest of the episodes filmed already. I just haven't had time to edit them because I've been so busy with work and doing these commentaries here. And I will be doing the Wolves of the North review. Way too many cards I figured out to do all of them, so I'm just going to do a select few. That'll be coming soon. Thanks guys for watching. Sorry that was a boring game. I will speak with you again soon.
Yeah.
Combo Westeros.
Yeah, that was I didn't expect you to do for the March at that first turn. That caught me off guard. I played Com for the money.
Yeah.
I didn't expect you. You could have easily caught me off guard there and hit me off my knees.
After that, well, Mill having to pay for that too. I would have done things set up a little bit differently, but
Yeah, you can only set up on your opponent, on your character.